The story begins as we meet the genius Prince Cecil, who impresses his teacher as he creates an original formula to solve a problem. His teacher realizes he just made a discovery in the world of math and rushes to inform everyone, but Cecil finds it boring that he understands everything so easily. After that, Cecil meets his fiancée Tia, but she surprises him by saying she's the villainess who will steal him from the heroine and leave him heartbroken. As they have tea, he introduces his butler Zeno, but he notices she's staring at him, so he asks her what's wrong. She finds it strange how he's so composed for his age, and wonders if he was reincarnated, but he explains that he's simply behaving like a royal. Zeno doesn't agree with what he said, but Cecil can hear his thoughts, and he asks Tia to explain what she meant earlier. She reveals that she has memories of her past life, where she used to play dating sims, and she thinks they're in one of those games. She notes that Cecil will fall in love with a noble girl named Heronia, while she'll become a jealous villainess who will make the heroine suffer. She explains that he'll break their engagement when he learns about it and push her family to ruin, but she knows he'll find happiness with Heronia after she's defeated, so she plans to become a first-rate flower of evil. He thinks about how it's the first time he can't understand what someone is saying, but he thinks it isn't an issue as long as it doesn't interfere with her role as future queen. He wonders what she means by first-rate flower of evil, so she describes it as a strong and beautiful woman who walks toward destruction without hesitation. He looks at her and realizes she doesn't fit that description, but she explains that he misunderstood her and notes that her character was never pretty, but she'll express herself since she was shy in her past life. He still can't understand her, but she leaves and tells him she'll improve herself before their next meeting. He tells Zeno he finds her interesting, even though she lacks the manners expected of someone who would stand beside royalty, so he plans to observe and guide her as needed. Zeno thinks he's enjoying himself, so he admits that he likes unpredictability, since he has always achieved everything on his first attempt, which makes it all boring, and he hopes she'll live up to his expectations. After a year, Cecil learns that Tia has shut herself in her house, but he remains calm since he knows what she's up to. A few days later, Cecil meets Tia, who thinks he won't recognize her, but he isn't surprised that her appearance has changed, since he received reports that she's been working out. She asks him if he mistook her for someone else, but her father Marquis Naudus scolds her for being rude to him and apologizes for her behavior. He explains that it's okay, since he finds her behavior adorable, which makes her flustered, and she asks him to repeat what he just said. Naudus reminds her not to be fooled by his appearance, since his eyes never seem to smile, and he lacks the warmth to find something cute. But he assures her she's adorable, which shocks Cecil since he's even worse than she is. As they have tea together, Tia's fox suddenly jumps off her neck, and she explains that it has never left her since she found it. He offers her the cake, but she refuses to eat it since she's on a diet, so he assures her it was made with less sugar, and she quickly starts to eat it. He thinks she's moving away from her goal of becoming a villainess, and he tells her that at tomorrow's party, she shouldn't tell the others about her goal in past life. He explains that in high society, a true villainess should never expose herself so easily, since it would leave her open to attacks. She likes his idea, and thinks he's asking her to focus more on actions instead of talking big, and he tells her he wants to celebrate his 11th birthday with her. She suddenly starts to cry, as she notes that in the coming summer, her mother will die from an epidemic, and she notes that the disease can only be treated by a rare herb called the luana leaf. Cecil thinks they still have time to change the future, but she hesitates since she's worried that the scenario will change, so he asks her if it matters more than her mother. She chooses her mother, but she's worried that the story will be affected if they change the scenario, and he assures her he won't leave her side as her fiancé. Tia meets Cecil after a year, but she isn't happy with him, because every time she wrote a letter to discuss their strategy for the epidemic, he only told her everything is fine. She also wonders why the disease never spread, so he reveals that the epidemic happened just like she said, but he used the information she gave him to create a cure in advance. She doesn't understand what he means, so he explains that right after their conversation, he cultivated the luana leaf and used it to create a cure. But he knew the adults wouldn't take him seriously if he told them about it, so he guided a doctor into making it instead. He explains that when the disease showed up, they suppressed it before it could spread further, but she wonders why he would go that far, so he tells her he can't ignore something that makes her worried. She can't believe an 11-year-old can do so much, but he explains that he has access to the royal library and experts, so it's nothing out of the ordinary, but Zeno silently disagrees with him. After that, he gives her a necklace he made for her birthday, and notes that it's a universal antidote, which will protect her in case she falls ill. She promises to repay him by becoming an amazing villainess, and even plans to turn her father into a villain, but he thinks losing a chancellor will cause problems. He realizes she isn't listening to him, and she notes that she wants him to have a happy ending with the heroine, so he just watches her and thinks her determination is amusing. After a year, Cecil meets Nadas, who's exhausted since Tia has been trying to turn him into a proper villain, and she even prepared notes on how to commit crimes. Cecil looks at them, and he's impressed since the numbers on embezzlement and fraud are realistic, which makes him wonder if she got that information from her previous life. He tells Nadas she might just be in a phase where she's drawn to bad personalities, and Nadas wonders why she isn't targeting Cecil instead, and he thinks it's because she loves Nadas. Nadas notes that it might be true, and he thinks Cecil's evil-mindedness tends to leak out, which is why she decided not to bother him. Nadas worries about their upcoming social debut, so Cecil assures him he'll support Tia, but thinks he might just sit back and watch if things get interesting. The day finally arrives, and Cecil praises how beautiful Tia looks, but she wonders if he needs a favor from her, since she has plans to turn her father into a villain. They arrive at the hall, where Tia impresses Cecil with her manners, and he thinks she isn't doing a good job as a villainess, since she's acting like an ideal noble. A man named Viscount Sabir praises Tia as he greets her, but he's too comfortable around her, so Cecil wonders how they're connected. She whispers that she wants to discuss something with him, but Cecil makes up an excuse and pulls her away. He asks her about the information in her villain manual, so she admits that it came from Sabir, but she's embarrassed that he read the notes. She explains how Sabir is the one who pushed her father down the villainous path, so she did everything she could to become friends with him, but Cecil tells her he's an evil man who preys on young girls. He wonders if Sabir ever laid a hand on her, so she recalls their interactions, which makes her realize he's actually a bad person. Cecil tells her he won't forgive anyone who lays a hand on her, and wonders if she had contact with anyone else, so she mentions 2 other names, but notes that she hasn't met them directly. He tells her to stop putting herself in danger, but she thinks he's telling her to be more careful when she interacts with them, so she promises not to mess up. He realizes it's the perfect chance to clean out the corruption in the kingdom, so he tells Nadas that the 3 nobles are plotting something, and notes that they have already made contact with Tia. Nadas becomes angry hearing this, but Cecil assures him they haven't crossed the red line yet, and tells him to gather evidence against them, so he promises to crush them with his own hands. Cecil spends 6 months at the academy, but he becomes bored, and thinks his life would be more interesting if Tia were around. She suddenly runs toward him, and notes that they have a baby on the way, so the other students gossip about them. He wonders who's pregnant, so she tells him her mother is expecting a child, and she realizes how bad she sounded earlier. She explains that they haven't even kissed, while Cecil threatens everyone with his stare, and they realize they'll be punished if rumors spread about them. He offers to escort her back, but she tells him she's embarrassed after what she did, and he teases her that he'll kiss her, so she rushes out of there at full speed. After 6 months, Cecil visits Tia's house, where he sees her little brother, but he notices she's sad. She tells him their family was supposed to adopt a talented boy named Durs, because they had no heir, and he would become one of Cecil's aides, but the scenario changed since her mother survived. She thinks it's good that it avoids a path where Durs ends up with Heronia, but it surprises Cecil, since she told him he was the one destined to be with Heronia. She explains that there are actually multiple possible outcomes depending on Heronia's choices, and he thinks that if that's the case, there's no reason for them to break their engagement. Tia seems to be against it, and notes that he wants her to end up with Heronia, but he notices there's something she isn't telling him. He asks about the other possible candidates who can become his aide, so she tells him about Vault, Charles, Nelt, and the second Prince Sean. Cecil thinks he should take her memories seriously, but she's afraid that her brother might get harmed, so he tells her not to worry, and notes that he'll handle the issue of Durs attending the academy. After that, Cecil visits Durs, and asks him about the local lord he's been hearing complaints about. Durs notes that the lord isn't a bad person, but he's just too harsh in his tone, which is why he has a bad reputation. Cecil is impressed with his answer, and asks him to join a noble family, since he needs him to work as a spy. Durs swears his loyalty to Cecil, since he considers it an honor to work for him, and Cecil tells Tia that Durs will attend the academy as planned. She's happy that Nodus is getting along with the corrupt nobles, but she doesn't know he's working as Cecil's spy, and she fears that Heronia might draw the attention of multiple partners. Cecil thinks it's impossible, since a queen having an affair is a treasonous offense, but she thinks he won't be able to leave Heronia if he falls in love with her. He tells her it's impossible, so she mentions that Heronia could have used charm magic, but she thinks magic doesn't exist in this world. He reveals that spirits do exist in this world, and notes that Zeno is his spirit animal, just like Kuro is hers. He asks her where she found Kuro, so she reveals that she found it in the forest, and it licked her wound after she got injured, so she took a liking to it and gave it a name. Cecil explains that she accidentally formed a contract with a high-level darkness spirit and makes Zeno pull out a stack of books, telling her to study them to understand spirits. We see that Cecil has become the student council president, and he welcomes all the new students, including Tia. In the student council office, everyone discusses how beautiful Tia is, and Sean wants to be friends with her, since she'll become his sister-in-law. Vault is impressed by her legs, and thinks she must have trained hard, but Charles thinks a noble lady like her would never train, so Cecil reveals that she's been working out. Charles asks Durs about her, since he was part of the same family, but Durs mentions that she was part of the main house, so he never had a chance to meet her. Cecil tells everyone he needs to leave to meet her, which surprises Charles, because he was never interested in anyone in the past, so he explains that he's only interested in people worth his time. Charles thinks they should all join him since they want to meet her, and Cecil allows them to come with him, but on his way, he notices a girl chasing her pet bird, and he tells Durs to do something for him. As Tia drinks tea with her friends, she's surprised to see the whole student council coming to meet her with Cecil, and he notices Kuro, who has taken a human form. Cecil's cousin Joanna mentions how Tia has been impatiently waiting for him, but she claims it isn't true and calls her friends minions. He notes that she shouldn't call her friends minions, so she apologizes for being mean, but Joanna mentions it's okay, since they're all part of her secret fan club, and their duty is to watch over her. Cecil gives her a pot of blue flowers, which he made especially for her, but she thinks she can't accept such a rare gift, so he wonders if she doesn't like them. She finds them beautiful, and sees a depth in them just like his blue eyes, but she becomes embarrassed since everyone can hear her. As they leave, she's relieved that even though parts of the scenario have changed, the meet and greet took place as planned, but he wonders what she means. She asks him if he met the girl chasing a bird on his way to meet her, and he notes that he found her suspicious, so he told Durs to report her to the teacher. Tia becomes upset, since he was supposed to give the girl a flower from the bouquet he got for her, but he thinks that wasn't possible since he got her a whole pot of flowers. She wonders if he felt anything when he saw the girl, but he notes that she left a bigger impression when they first met, so she thinks the meet and greet event has been ruined. He apologizes for hurting her, and she tells him that since it has already happened, there's no point in being sad. After that, Cecil calls Joanna to the student council room, and he notes that it was unexpected to see her at the tea party, so she admits that Tia naturally draws everyone toward her. He wonders if anyone in their fan club could be a risk to Tia, but Joanna refuses to tell him anything, so he threatens to expose that she's secretly investigating Sean. He knows she's into him, but she becomes angry and calls Cecil a black-hearted schemer. She can't believe he's related to Sean, and thinks he doesn't deserve to be Tia's fiancé, but he wonders if she's jealous. She tells him it isn't true, but he starts to tease her, so Zeno notes that he shouldn't push her too much. She gives him a list of people who don't like Tia since they're jealous of her, and he immediately notices Heronia's name, so he thinks things are about to get interesting. Joanna thinks he should be concerned, but he trusts Joanna to take care of things since they think alike, and she accepts the responsibility. Cecil thinks Heronia is the real threat, because she probably has light-based abilities, and he isn't sure if Kuro can protect Tia, since she can't use her abilities openly against a human opponent. He heads out to meet Tia in the garden, but he sees Heronia resting under a tree, and he knows that Tia is hiding in the bushes with Kuro. He ignores Heronia and starts to read a book, but Tia suddenly screams as a bug lands on her head, so he calmly removes it and asks if she's done playing hide and seek. Heronia becomes jealous and calls for help, claiming she can't wake up, but he ignores her and invites Tia to have tea. She accepts his invitation since he has imported sweets for her, and she forgets her plan, while Heronia curses her from behind. The next day, Tia sends Cecil to retrieve an item from a classroom, and he knows she's up to something, but he decides to go anyway. He finds Heronia there, but a student suddenly locks the door from outside, and Heronia thanks him for giving her the red rose. She speaks as if something meaningful has already happened between them, but he sees through her trap and escapes through the window, and he tells a teacher that a student is stuck in the classroom. After that, as Tia meets Cecil, she asks about his encounter with Heronia, but he explains that they're still strangers, since they haven't been formally introduced. Tia is frustrated since nothing worked despite all her efforts, so he teases her about how she's been trying to make them meet. He tells her he's been intentionally keeping his distance as part of his plan, and notes that he won't let his precious princess slip away, so she thinks she may have misunderstood everything. He feels a tightness in his chest, and doesn't understand how he feels, but he knows he doesn't want to talk to Heronia. In a flashback, we see that on the day Charles's older brother was supposed to meet his engagement candidates, he walks off with another woman, and tells Charles to take care of everything in his absence. Charles is disappointed in his older brother, but as he returns inside, he runs into a girl named Anna, who came to meet his brother, so he decides to keep her company instead. In the present, Cecil notes that Tia has spent the past year trying to push him toward Heronia, while also working on selecting his future aides. She tells him she has decided to change her approach, and explains that instead of pushing him toward Heronia, she'll pair up all the other candidates with perfect partners, so that they won't even look at her. She decides to start with Vault and Cynthia, who are already engaged, but barely know each other. They invite the couple to the stables, hoping Vault will teach Cynthia how to ride a horse, but she already knows how to do it. They realize the epidemic that was supposed to make Cynthia weak never spread, and it has ruined her plan, but Vault is impressed by Cynthia's riding skills. They get into a race to see who's the better rider, and Cecil decides to join them, but he scares Tia by taking a shortcut that goes over a broken path. Vault wins the race, and Tia's plan works, since the couple is much closer than before, but they notice Charles walking with a new girl. The next day at the academy, Charles bumps into Anna and notices she looks off, so he tries to cheer her up. But she explains that she must decide what to do with her engagement to his older brother, and she needs to do it on her own. Tia suddenly appears, and tells Anna that Charles is in love with her, so he rushes to tell Cecil about it. He confesses how he tried to forget Anna by seeing other women, because she's his elder brother's fiancée, but Tia and Anna overhear him. Tia asks Anna if love matters more to her than economic stability, and she answers yes, so Cecil notes that Charles can work hard to become his personal aide, which will grant him social status. He tells Anna he'll work hard to marry her, even if it means becoming the Demon King's loyal servant, and Cecil wonders if he's the Demon King Charles was referring to, but Tia is just glad she was able to bring them together. After that, Tia runs into Sean, who's happy since a friend gave him rare sweets, but as Joanna arrives, he becomes nervous and runs away. Tia feels bad for Joanna, and they notice their friend Silica, who gives cookies to Nelt, so Tia asks Silica to teach them how to bake cookies. As they start to practice, Tia makes decent cookies, but Joanna burns the ones she made, so they encourage her to keep trying. After a few days, she presents her cookies to Sean, who doesn't like them since they're dry, but she reveals that she made them with her own hands, so he decides to accept them. In the student council office, Nelt complains that he can't sleep at night, and he was even scolded by his father. But Silica tells him to clean his mess on the table, so he lashes out at her and tells her not to interfere with his life. Tia steps in and reminds him how Silica is always taking care of him out of love, but she drags Tia away and notes that she's at fault since she didn't maintain her distance. The next day, Nelt notices Silica's absence in his life and realizes how he never acknowledged the things she did for him. He knows he can't bear her absence, so he apologizes for messing up and asks her to always stay by his side. Tia sees everything, and she wants to have a party, but Cecil thinks she should learn from yesterday's mistake and stop interfering. She notices Sean and Joanna being friendly, so Cecil tells her he talked with him, because Sean was nervous seeing how perfect Joanna is. But after he saw her fail in baking, he realized she was just an ordinary girl. Tia is glad things turned out well, since all of Heronia's suitors have partners now, but we see Heronia watching them from a distance, and she's starting to lose her patience. At school, two girls read Tia's guide to the capital, but Heronia lies that Tia's attendants wrote it and claims that Tia bullies her out of jealousy. Meanwhile in the council room, Cecil remembers how according to Tia's timeline, it's about time that Heronia starts targeting her. But he gets interrupted by Durs, who has brought a plan for the middle school student council, Durs also asks Cecil if Tia can call him her dear brother, because she's been asking him for days, and refusing her hurts him as well, but Cecil doesn't allow it. The rest of the student council members arrive, and Cecil notices Charles wearing an earring, so he reveals that Tia gave it to him, and notes that she gave the others as well, which makes Cecil jealous. As Cecil has tea with Tia, he brings up how she has been wishing to call Durs her dear brother, so she explains that she was trying to draw a boundary between him and Heronia. She reveals that she didn't have a sibling in her previous life, so she really wanted to have one in this world, but Cecil asks her to call him her dear brother instead. She refuses to do it since he's her fiancé, so he tells her to call him Sil instead, and she reluctantly fulfills his request. He asks her why she didn't give him the earrings, and she tries to make an excuse, but he grabs her necklace and takes out the earrings, which match the color of their hair and eyes. She explains that he doesn't need her earrings to block Heronia's magic charm, so he wonders if she wants him to become a puppet, and notes that he wants to have control over his mind, so that he can pursue the woman he wants. She thinks the design isn't perfect, but he likes it and puts them on, and he tells Zeno to use his magic on her. Kuro becomes defensive, so Cecil tells her not to worry, and explains that the spell will make sure her earrings don't fall off. Tia thinks that if they were matching earrings, it will create problems since everyone will think they're in love, but he isn't worried about it. On his way out, he gets an order from the king, which tells him he must study in a neighboring country for 4 months. He soon arrives in the country, where a duke gives him a city tour, and he mentions that their alcohol prices are lower than in Cecil's country. But Cecil sees through their pricing trick, which hooks people with cheap alcohol before raising the price once they're dependent. He realizes he was sent to keep things in check, and thinks he's been doing well so far, but he's starting to get bored. At night, he receives a letter from Tia, who mentions that everything's fine, and Heronia is being adored by everyone. But he receives another report, which reveals that Heronia has been bullying Tia and spreading fake rumors about her. Cecil returns to the academy after a week, and Tia greets him as if nothing is wrong, but he brings up the reports he received. She dismisses everything and insists that she'll take care of it herself, but he offers to step in. She explains that she doesn't need his help, and notes that after she wins, he can comfort Heronia to win her heart. He points out how Tia is protecting the person who hurt her, but Tia notes that he should take care of his future fiancée. He makes it clear that it's his decision, but she knows it will put him against Heronia, and she doesn't want it to happen. She insists that she can handle everything herself, which makes him upset, so he leaves and notes that he lost his appetite. After a month, Cecil follows Tia's request and doesn't intervene, but he hears an argument between Tia and Heronia's supporters. Cecil notices the boys reacting like they've been affected by charm magic, and Tia's friends try to defend her, but she stops them and notes that Heronia is her prey. So everyone starts to praise her, but Heronia is angry since they're treating her like a role model. After that, Cecil sees Heronia stab Tia's chair, which Nanas had custom-made for her, so Zeno wonders if they should stop her, but Cecil reminds him that Tia didn't ask for their help. As Heronia leaves, Cecil gives her a warning to stop hurting Tia, since he could no longer control himself, and he realizes it's hard to trust others to take care of things and do nothing. In the evening, Sean bursts into the council room and asks Cecil to help Tia, but Cecil notes that he's respecting her choice, so Sean tries to push him to help her. Cecil admits that it hurts to see his fiancée suffer, but there's nothing he can do since she refused his help, so Sean wonders if he's lonely, because the person he cares about doesn't want to rely on him. Cecil starts to wonder if he has feelings for her, but Charles suddenly rushes to him, and reports that Tia has fallen down the stairs. Cecil rushes to see Tia, who assures him that she's okay, and he asks her what happened. So she explains that she was carrying things out of the student council office, when one of her fans named Fail offered to help her. Cecil takes note of his name for investigation, and she tells him how she accidentally bumped into a girl and fell down the stairs. She assures him she's fine, since Kuro's magic protected her, but he wonders if she saw the girl's face, so she reveals that she didn't, but her hair was pink like Heronia's. Instead of being angry, she thinks it's inevitable that Heronia and the Villainess will always be at odds, but Cecil finally gives up on staying uninvolved. So he tells her that if she insists on acting freely, he'll also start acting on his own will to protect his fiancée. In the council room, Cecil asks everyone to help him get revenge, so they're glad he has decided to make his move, and Sean thinks they should head straight to Heronia. Cecil shocks them by saying she isn't the mastermind, since her usual style is to damage Tia's reputation from the shadows, and he notes that the real culprit is a girl named Island Silberts. After a few days, Heronia confronts Tia in the garden and accuses her of staging the stair incident. Durs asks Cecil if it was part of his plan, so he admits it's a pure coincidence, but it will benefit them since they have already set the plan in motion. He explains that the harassment started from Island's one-sided crush on Fannel and her jealousy over his admiration for Tia, but Heronia continues to accuse Tia, so Cecil decides to step in. Heronia uses her charm magic on him, but Kuro's protective magic blocks it, and he notes that Tia never claimed it was Heronia who pushed her. He explains that someone else took advantage of the tension between them, and Island prepares to leave, but Fannel stops her, and Cecil exposes her identity. She explains that Heronia is the real culprit, but the student council arrives with evidence, and Joanna reveals that they've been watching her for days. Cynthia notes that she would walk into a room, but Heronia would come out instead, which makes everyone think she's been using a false identity to throw blame on her. She denies their accusations, so they call Nelt for physical evidence, but he becomes shy since there are a lot of people. So Silica tells him to relax and imagine that he's just talking to her. He shows everyone a chemical they found hidden in the closet, which Island visited frequently, and he explains that it's colorless, but it changes color when mixed with another chemical. He asks Island and Heronia to give them their shoes, so that they can perform the test, and the moment the chemical touches Island's shoe, the color changes immediately. Everyone realizes she was the one who went to the closet, but she claims that the entire council conspired to frame her, so he asks her why they would do that. He mentions that the dormitory has just been thoroughly cleaned, so she must be carrying the disguise with her, and Durs snatches the sack she has been protecting. She tells him to give it back, but he opens it and shows everyone her pink wig, which proves that she disguised herself as Heronia. Fannel tells her he hates her, which breaks her heart, but as everything comes to a conclusion, Heronia wonders why Cecil isn't comforting her. He explains that he's only concerned about Tia, which causes Heronia to lose it, and she blames Tia for ruining the story. She notes that he can only be happy with her, because she's the Maiden of Destiny, which makes Cecil wonder if there's a reason why he must end up with her. As Heronia storms off, Tia falls unconscious, so everyone becomes worried, and Cecil takes her to the room, where he learns that she couldn't sleep after she was pushed down the stairs. He doesn't want to lose her, since life without her would be boring, and when she wakes up, she sees him and thinks she must be dreaming. But he explains that she collapsed from exhaustion, and notes that everyone's waiting to see her. They all visit her and explain that they were worried about her, but she doesn't understand what's happening, so Cecil tells her they're all on her side. She notes that she'll work hard to understand why they keep trying to cheer her up, which makes them laugh, but Cecil thinks it's the kind of atmosphere she deserves to be surrounded with. After 2 months, the Academy holds a culture fair based on Tia's idea, and Cecil decides to enjoy the event. But Zeno tells him his real entertainment is watching Tia enjoy it, so he steps on Zeno's foot. Cecil runs into Joanna, who reveals that the stair incident is being treated as attempted murder, so Island has been locked away. She admits that she was once worried about Tia because of Cecil's cold personality, but she's happy that he's changed, and she tells him to always make Tia happy. He wonders why the students are casting votes, so she tells him there's a competition for the best couple, and the winner will be announced at the end of the fair. In the garden, Cecil takes Tia's hand and admits he felt lonely, since he couldn't see her all day, and he kisses her hand. She happily eats beside him, and he wipes cream from her lips, while the other students watch them. At the end of the fair, Tia announces the results, with the third place going to Vault and Cynthia, alongside Nelt and Silica, while the second place goes to Sean and Joanna. She confidently declares Cecil and herself the winners, but as she realizes the situation, she becomes too embarrassed to carry on. Cecil walks onto the stage, and he thanks everyone, but he shocks them by kissing her on the cheek. After that, Tia and Cecil watch the fireworks, as she notes that he has turned harmless memories into an unforgettable public disaster. He apologizes and admits that he was happy they were chosen together, and he wonders if she feels differently, so she admits that she's also happy. As the fireworks light up the sky, he quietly promises himself that no matter how chaotic the future becomes, he won't let their memories together turn into something painful. We see that Cecil has reached his 3rd year, while Tia has entered high school, but she has suddenly started to avoid him. He thinks it's because of what Heronia said, so he pins her to the wall, and she finally confesses that she needs to stay away from him, since they'll say goodbye to each other after a year. She thinks the compelling forces have already begun to take action to return everything to the original story, since she's been gaining weight just like her character in the game. But he tells her it's because of the sweets she's been eating, since everyone has been giving them to her to befriend her. He thinks she just needs to eat less sweets, but she refuses to share them with her friends, so he reminds her that to become a true villainess, she needs to stay by his side. She doesn't understand what he means, since her goal is for Heronia to end up with him, but he explains that if she truly wants to become a great villainess, she should selfishly want him all to herself. She suddenly starts to cry, as she reveals that she wants to maintain her distance from him so that she won't get hurt when he leaves her forever. He realizes it's the real reason she's been avoiding him, so he assures her he won't be cold toward her, and promises to take care of everything. In the student council office, Cecil asks Durs about Heronia, because he heard that she's been visiting him often. He reveals that she has been asking if Tia and her family have committed crimes, and the others share how she keeps trying to break their relationships, so they think they should teach her a lesson. But Cecil notes that they shouldn't gang up on her, and suggests just letting her fall into their defensive trap. He tells Durs that the next time she asks about Tia's family, he shouldn't confirm or deny anything, and he thinks Tia's downfall is supposed to happen during graduation, so Heronia must be planning something for that moment. At night, Cecil asks his father if he heard anything about a Maiden of Destiny, since he came across the term while investigating something. But the king can't recall anything about it, so Cecil thinks the prophecy must be fake. He notes that his fiancée makes him happy, so his father realizes he was right to choose Tia for him, and he tells him he'll always be there for him. On his way out, Cecil realizes he's anxious for the first time, but he thinks he'll be fine, since he has finished his preparations. 3 months before graduation, Cecil offers to buy Tia a dress, but she tells him he should buy it for Heronia instead. He reminds her that she's his partner, and asks about the color of the dress she wants, so she notes that she likes yellow and blue. But she wants her dress to be black and red, since she thinks it's the perfect color for a villainess. He wonders if she no longer likes yellow, so she explains that she loves blue and yellow, but the colors hold fond memories for her, and she doesn't want them to be stained with pain. He tells her to forget about the whole scenario, but she explains that she can't, since she thinks she and her father need to suffer for their crimes. Cecil knows she and her father have done nothing wrong, and Tia gives him a diary with the proof of her villainous deeds, but as he goes through it, he thinks about how none of it actually happened. There's a mention of a tea etiquette class, where nobody wanted to pair with Heronia, so Tia volunteered and taught her proper manners. He knows that Heronia didn't treat Tia well since she didn't like her, but in the diary, Tia wrote that she bullied Heronia. He realizes her diary is filled with nonsense, but she really thinks it's a weapon he could use against her, so he loses control over his emotions, and asks her why she keeps pushing him away. She explains it's because she cares for him, and he asks her about her idea of his happiness, so she notes that it's staying with Heronia forever. He realizes she's the first person he's ever hated, and she becomes emotional, as she tells him she knows what will happen to him in the future. He thinks he should just destroy the destiny, but she knows he'll regret it, and he mentions that if she really wants to stop him, she needs to explain why he needs to end up with Heronia, but he knows she can't tell him, so he just tells her he'll choose her dress himself. He reminds her that she started the game the day they first met, so she should sit back and watch it till the end. She wants him to be happy, so he assures her he'll find happiness, but tells her to stop running away. Graduation day finally arrives, and Tia wears the dress Cecil chose for her, and he tells her it suits her well. She wonders what he truly feels for her, so he tells her he finds her adorable, but he gets interrupted as they're suddenly called in. He tells her they'll continue their discussion, and she stops to thank him for everything he's done for her, but he's determined not to let their time together come to an end. The graduation ceremony begins, and Cecil delivers a speech to his fellow graduates, which impresses his parents. But they know he's up to something, and they're worried that he might screw up. He appoints Durs as the next student council president, so he promises to carry out his duties, but he tells Cecil that everything's ready. So he announces that he has another declaration, and calls Tia to join him on stage. She becomes so nervous that she stumbles, but she tells everyone she's okay, and thinks Cecil is about to expose her wrongdoings and ruin her life. He notes that she has committed a serious crime, so she explains that it isn't true, but he tells her to be silent and reveals that her crime is that she's 2 years younger than him. He explains that he needs to wait 2 years before she graduates, which is why it's a terrible crime, and he notes that to atone for it, she must marry him after her graduation. He brings out a ring and puts it on her finger, and she can't believe what's happening, but Heronia suddenly interrupts them. She notes that Tia is a terrible person because she has bullied a lot of people and even pushed her down the stairs the previous day. He explains that it's impossible since Tia was in her room when it happened, and she even had servants watching her every move. Heronia thinks she ordered someone to do it, so he promises to investigate what happened and asks her about the details, but she can't name anyone. He wonders why she accused Tia if she doesn't even know who did it, and asks her if she has evidence that Tia is a bully, so she tells her friends to testify against Tia. But they don't come forward, since they know their social standing will be affected. He tells her to stop accusing Tia, but she pulls out a report from under her skirt and tells him to read it, but he doesn't want to touch it since he knows where it came from. Zeno opens it for him, and he realizes it's about Nanas, so he thinks she hired people to look into him. Tia thinks her life is about to be ruined, but Cecil notices her reaction and realizes she doesn't want to lose her father. Heronia explains that Nanas is a criminal, and since Tia is his daughter, she isn't qualified to be their future queen. Cecil admits that the report she gave him proves that crimes were committed, but he notes that Nanas is innocent, and it was actually Sabir and the others who broke the law. She thinks Nanas should also be punished since he's connected to them, and tells Durs to testify against him, but he explains that he knows nothing. He notes that he didn't even pay attention to her when she spoke of her suspicions, but she tells him to stop lying, since she knows Nanas made him suffer for years. Cecil realizes she's just like Tia, since she expects everything to align with the scenario in the game, and he reveals that he ordered Nanas to investigate the criminals, which explains why he's connected to them. She falls into despair, so Cecil tells her to calm down, and his guards prepare to take her away, but she explains that Tia won't be able to replace her as the heroine. She notes that she's the only one who can turn him into a human, and explains that she followed everything that happened in the game, so she doesn't understand why he still hasn't fallen for her. He tells her he isn't interested in her, but she becomes angry, and explains that he's an android prince who will destroy himself out of boredom if he doesn't choose her. He has no idea what she's talking about, and Tia tells him not to listen to her, so he orders his guards to take her away. But the roof suddenly shatters, so Kuro and Zeno protect their masters from the falling glass. Heronia's light spirit descends toward them, so Kuro stops it with her barrier, and it suddenly disappears. Kuro deactivates her barrier, but Zeno tells her it isn't over yet, and the spirit suddenly charges at Cecil. It breaks his earring, and Tia panics as he collapses, but he suddenly finds himself in a strange place. He sees a light, which takes him back to the moment he first met Tia, but he realizes she's different since she doesn't have her confidence. As they have tea together, she tells him she'll do her best to become a woman worthy of him, but she doesn't eat the cakes, and explains that she just wants to spend time with him. After she leaves, Zeno asks him what he thinks of her, but he explains that he'll just follow his father's decision, and notes that he has no problems with her becoming the future queen. Cecil returns to the present, but he wonders why the scene doesn't match his memory, and he thinks Tia is the only thing that's different, since she didn't even declare that she's the villainess. He notices that his arm feels strange, but when he takes off his glove, he's confused seeing that his hand is turned into wood. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.